Nobody in the town of Black Hollow ever walked near the house across Miller Road after sunset, not because it was abandoned, but because every single night at exactly 11:47 p.m., the light turned on inside the attic window, even though nobody had lived there for almost 20 years. Black Hollow was the kind of American town people forgot existed. One gas station, one church, one diner beside the highway, and endless forests surrounding everything like a wall. Most people left after high school. The ones who stayed never asked too many questions, especially about the house across Miller Road, because everyone remembered what happened there in 2003, or at least they remembered parts of it. Ethan Cole moved into Black Hollow during late November. He was 27, quiet, worked remotely as a video editor, and after a rough breakup in Chicago, he wanted somewhere silent, somewhere cheap. His rental cabin sat near the woods only a few minutes from Miller Road. The locals acted strangely the first time he mentioned it, especially the old cashier at the gas station. She froze for a second and asked, "You're not staying near the old Bell House, are you?" Ethan laughed. "The place with the broken attic window?" The woman didn't smile back. She slowly placed his receipt on the counter, then whispered, "If you see the attic light turn on, don't look too long." That night, rain covered the town. Wine pushed against Ethan's cabin windows while he edited videos on his laptop. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the power flickered. Once, twice, then silence. Ethan looked outside and froze. Far beyond the trees, a tiny yellow light glowed inside the attic window of the Bell House. He stared for several seconds. Nothing moved. No shadows. Slow, heavy, dragging. From the attic, Ethan wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. But instead, he climbed the attic stairs. One step at a time, the smell hit him first. Rotten wood, mold, and something metallic underneath. At the top of the stairs, he found the attic empty, except for one thing, a small wooden chair facing the attic window, and beside it, a cassette recorder, still running. Ethan pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a woman's voice whispered, "If you're hearing this, don't let it see you looking back." Suddenly, the attic light shut off, and somewhere behind him, someone inhaled. Ethan turned slowly. Nobody stood there, but on the dusty attic floor, fresh footprints appeared, one after another, as if something invisible was walking toward him. Then he noticed something worse. The footprints were small, child-sized. They stopped directly in front of him. Silence filled the attic. Then, a tiny voice whispered beside his ear, "You look too long." The cassette recorder suddenly screamed with static, and the attic door slammed shut. 3 days later, Ethan Cole disappeared. Police found his car abandoned near Miller Road. Inside the cabin, his laptop remained open. Final video file was corrupted, except for the last frame. Blurry image taken from inside the Bell House attic, looking outward through the window, directly at Ethan's cabin, and if you zoom closely enough, you can see someone standing beside him in the darkness, watching the house, waiting for 11:47 p.m. To this day, people in Black Hollow still avoid Miller Road after sunset, and every night at exactly 11:47 p.m., the attic light turns on for exactly 1 minute. No sound. Just that single dim light. Then suddenly, it switched off. Ethan felt uncomfortable for reasons he couldn't explain. But curiosity is dangerous when life becomes too quiet, and Black Hollow was very quiet. The next morning, Ethan visited Rosie's Diner. Every small town diner in America feels the same. Old coffee smell, country music, people watching strangers too carefully. An old man named Walter sat beside him. After hearing where Ethan lived, Walter slowly lowered his coffee cup. "You saw the light, didn't you?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Walter sighed, then began speaking quietly. In 2003, the Bell family disappeared overnight. Mother, father, little daughter, gone. Bodies were ever found. Police searched the woods for weeks. Nothing, but neighbors claimed they kept seeing the attic light every night afterward. Always at 11:47. Always for exactly 1 minute. Ethan asked, "Did anyone ever go inside?" Walter stared out the diner window. One deputy did. He quit 3 days later. Never spoke again. Over the next few nights, Ethan became obsessed. Every night at 11:47, the attic light appeared. Exactly 1 minute. No more, no less. He even recorded it on his phone. But something strange happened. Whenever he replayed the footage, the attic window looked completely dark. No light, nothing. He thought maybe the camera was broken. Until one night, he noticed movement, a silhouette, standing behind the attic curtain, perfectly still, watching him. The next morning, Ethan drove to the local library. Black Hollow barely had internet, but it had old newspaper archives. He searched for the Bell family. His articles repeated the same story. Family missing, investigation ongoing, search ends. But one article caught his attention, a tiny paragraph buried near the bottom. It mentioned the Bell family's daughter, Lucy Bell, age 9, reported missing once before, 6 months before the family vanished. And according to police notes, she claimed, "There's someone living in the attic." Ethan felt cold reading those words, because the Bell house only had one attic, and the family themselves supposedly used it for storage. That night, Ethan made a terrible decision. At 11:30 p.m., he drove to Miller Road. Fog covered everything. The Bell house stood completely silent behind dead trees. Its windows looked like empty eyes. At exactly 11:47, the attic light turned on. Ethan slowly walked toward the house. Every floorboard creaked beneath his feet. Dust covered the furniture. Family photos still hung on the walls, but all the faces had been scratched out. Then, he heard footsteps above him. But the story didn't end with Ethan Cole's disappearance. Not even close. 2 weeks later, a state investigator named Daniel Hayes arrived in Black Hollow. Unlike the local police, Daniel didn't believe in ghost stories. He believed in evidence, patterns, facts, and according to the case files, none of the disappearances around Miller Road made sense, because Ethan Cole wasn't the first person who vanished near the Bell house. He was the 6th. Daniel spent days interviewing locals. Most refused to talk. Some became visibly nervous the moment Miller Road was mentioned. But eventually, Walter from Rosie's Diner agreed to meet him privately. The old man looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept properly in years. Daniel asked him one simple question: what really happened inside that house in 2003? Walter stayed silent for almost a full minute, then finally said, "The Bell family wasn't alone in that house." Rain hammered against the diner windows while Walter spoke. According to him, the Bell family started acting strangely months before disappearing. Neighbors heard noises coming from the attic late at night, scratching sounds, footsteps, sometimes even children laughing. But Lucy Bell once told her school teacher something disturbing. She said, "There's a man upstairs." When the teacher asked who, Lucy replied, "The man with no face." Daniel assumed it was imagination. Kids invent stories all the time. But then Walter revealed something else. The Bell family had sealed the attic shut once before, nailed it closed from the outside, for almost 3 weeks. And every night during those weeks, neighbors heard banging from inside the attic walls. Daniel drove to the Bell house that same evening. Sunset painted the forest dark orange. The house looked worse during daylight. Rotting wood, broken porch, black stains running beneath the attic window. Inside, everything remained untouched since Ethan's disappearance. Dust still covered the floors, except for one thing: fresh footprints leading upstairs. Daniel followed them carefully. His flashlight trembled slightly as he reached the attic door. The air felt colder there, unnaturally cold. When he pushed the door open, the attic was empty. Again, only the wooden chair remained beside the window, facing outward. Daniel slowly approached it and noticed carvings scratched into the wood. Names, 6 of them, each belonging to someone who had disappeared near Miller Road over the years. And underneath all the names, one fresh carving: Ethan Cole. Daniel stepped backward immediately. That's when he heard it, a child humming softly behind him. He spun around. Nothing, but the humming continued, somewhere inside the walls. Slow, quiet, almost playful. Then suddenly, his flashlight died. Complete darkness swallowed the attic. Daniel reached for his backup light, but before he could switch it on, a voice whispered directly beside his ear, "You came back." Daniel froze. The voice sounded like a little girl, but something about it felt wrong. Too deep, too hollow, like multiple voices speaking together. The backup flashlight flickered on, and for 1 second, Daniel saw someone standing near the attic window. Tall, thin, its face completely dark, like a shadow cut into human shape. Then it vanished. Daniel ran. He didn't care about evidence anymore. He nearly fell down the attic stairs trying to escape. Behind him, footsteps thundered across the ceiling. Not the footsteps, dozens, like multiple people crawling overhead at once. Daniel burst outside into the cold night air, panting, terrified. But before getting into his car, he looked back one final time and saw the attic light turn on. 11:47 p.m. Exactly. A small silhouette stood behind the curtain, watching him. Then another silhouette appeared beside him, taller this time, and then another, and another. Shapes filling the attic window one by one. Daniel drove away from Black Hollow that night. The next morning, he filed a request to permanently close the Bell House investigation. No explanation, no report, just 3 handwritten words. Do not return. Years later, people still talk about the house across Miller Road. Teenagers sometimes dare each other to visit it after midnight. Must never stay longer than a few minutes, because according to nearly everyone who has gone near the property, the attic window is never completely dark anymore, and if you stare at it long enough, you eventually realize something horrifying. The figures inside the attic aren't watching the house.